Jim Bianco, Bianco Research. Always a pleasure to have you with us, Jim.
Thanks for having me, Ash.
Well, it's especially great to have you here today as we look ahead to 2022. I should say we're filming here on December 7th, 2021, and we're going to be looking ahead to 2022 in this conversation. But Jim, before we get started, for people who haven't seen a deep dive with you before, give us a little bit of a sense of how you as a TradFi guy got into the crypto markets in the first place.
Yeah, so I still consider myself a TradFi guy that has fallen down the crypto rabbit hole. I've been in in the traditional financial markets as a macro strategist. I run my own research firm for now almost 24 years. And I actually had another 10 or 15 years on Wall Street, traditional Wall Street, in the research effort before that as well, too. But I came into crypto in the summer of 2017. I opened at the time, I'm going to really strain your memory, a GDAX account. And I wound up buying some Litecoin, and I wound up buying some Bitcoin and Ripple, which is now XRP at the time. GDAX eventually became Coinbase Pro over time as well, too. And from there, I started watching the coins, starting understanding the coins, and just little by little over the last 4 years, I've been getting deeper and deeper into this space. I knew I was hooked in this space because in early 18, I bought some Ethereum. And by the spring of 2020, it was down 90%, and I still liked it. And I kept thinking to myself, this must be the first time I've ever bought something. It went down 90%, and I still think it actually there's something to it. Because most of the time, by the time it's down 90% in the traditional financial world, you're wondering who's going to be hauled away in handcuffs and how did this happen? But in the crypto space, it's like, nah, it's just a correction.
Yeah, and usually by the time it's down 20%, you've exited the position already. So you are officially now a 2017 OG. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Can you be an OG from 2017? I thought that was like 15 and earlier, but that's just...
I think so. I think the longer that you stay in the space, like the later you can be an OG.
Okay.
I think you just have to define it, like a 2017 OG.
Okay. I'll take it.
So let's talk a little bit about 2021. You and I have probably heard at least 1,000 times this phrase. This is the year that institutional investors get into crypto. Maybe that's a little bit of hyperbole. There's probably some truth in it. How do you think about what happened in 2021?
It was the year that institutional investors stopped mocking it, because I can tell you that up until late 20, there was only a handful of people I could really talk to about this stuff. The rest of them just mocked it and thought it was, beyond Ponzi, Ponzi tulips, insanity. Those were kind of the words that everybody used to describe it as well, too. But at least in 2021, they started asking the right questions. Now, I know a lot of institutions that haven't really jumped in full on, but they're at least thinking about it. So yeah, it was, I'm not going necessarily to the adoption part, although there's always going to be more adoption now than a year ago. In a year, there'll be more adoption than there was this year. But it was really the year where we just stopped making fun of it and we started thinking that it might be a serious thing.
So talking of the year ahead, let's frame it up. What are you looking at, Jim? Where do you spend most of your time, and what has caught your curiosity and attention?
As a TradFi guy, what I do like is the protocols. And I do like the idea that it is reconstructing a financial system. So I'm looking at the lending and the borrowing protocols. I'm looking at the DEXs and the other new DeFi protocols that are coming. I've been playing around by trading on some of the DEXs just to get a feel for how they work, staking some coins, borrowing against other coins as well too, participating in liquidity pools and the like, because that's where my interest is. Now I know a lot of other people's interests are, doing charts and then hoping that this coin will moon right after I buy it. Yeah, of course I like it when my coins go up, but that's not really where my primary focus is and hasn't been. It's been, is this going to become the new financial system? And the answer I think I've come to is yes. Now, it's not going to become the new financial system right away, but it's on its way towards becoming it. It is very, very early days as far as where we see this going. If anybody remembers, the earliest days of the Uber app didn't work very well. There was no there was no cars out there. It was frustrating to use, but eventually you could see where we were going. And now you look at how it's changed the human transportation system as well. And I think that we're kind of in that process as well, too, with what we see, at least in the protocols when it comes to decentralized finance.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We talk about crypto very often as being something that's very much a young person's game, people in their early 20s doing a lot of the development. But very often it's guys like you and me who have a few more gray hairs, who've actually seen these cycles, who've watched adoption curves, who've watched sort of initial hype. But when you see something there and you identify something that's durable, that has a real sort of connection with the way that markets work, or the way that there's tremendous demand for something, you can overlook that drop when you see it come down from peak. This is the way that markets work, and adoption cycles are not smooth. It takes time for new technologies and for new paradigms to come online.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And also, when you talk about, you have a couple of gray hairs and you've seen some of these cycles too, you also have to keep in mind vested interests. There are a lot of high profile TradFi guys, Jamie Dimon, that will say nasty things about it, but you would almost expect them to, because if we are creating a new financial system, who's on the losing end of that? It might very well be Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, and JP Morgan. Now, maybe they can adapt and adjust, but right now they're at the top of the heap, and it's going to be hard for them to stay at the top of the heap if we have a new system going. Maybe because I work for a small firm with my name on the door, I can be a lot more nimble, a lot more flexible, a lot more open-minded at change. I can be a lot more accepting of failure, or maybe not. But that's why I say I can see these cycles and I can see where they're going. And also, who also is on the potential losing end of a new financial system being built? The Federal Reserve, the Office of Controller of Currency, the Department of Treasury, as well too, and the issuers of the U.S. dollar and of all fiat currencies. So I understand why they're pushing back against this as much as they have been.
So, Jim, one of the things that's interesting to me is, as someone who's very much a TradFi guy, someone who's traveled in Wall Street circles for a very long time, you talk to people in the TradFi space. What's the sense that you've had in 2021 of the transition in thinking about how people are conceptualizing this space? You mentioned earlier that while there may not be mass adoption, it's not being mocked any longer.
Right. And I think one of the reasons it's not being mocked is, even if you go back a year ago when it was being mocked, or a year and a half ago, and of course earlier, if you ask them what was cryptocurrencies, it was Bitcoin, something with a dog on it, and it was this magic bean that went up or down and didn't serve any purpose at all. They didn't understand what was coming in terms of the protocols. They didn't understand, lending and borrowing and staking and liquidity pools. And now that they're becoming aware that those things exist, it is becoming, okay, maybe there's something more to this than just buying some doggy token and hoping that it goes up 100x in a week. Yeah, there's that too. But that's not where a lot of people are focused right now. And that has been the realization. So in other words, I think, to put it in blunt terms, what changed it was DeFi Summer. Was when DeFi Summer came in 2020 and they started to become aware of this thing called DeFi. That's what really started changing thinking. Now, the problem that a lot of them have, I think, is, yeah, we should get involved in this. And then the answer is, well, let's buy some Bitcoin. Well, no, I want to get involved with that DeFi stuff. And they're not, they got to start, first of all, you got to open an account and buy something to get going before we start actually talking about where on the curve in an Uniswap L3 pool are you going to stake your coins. That's coming later as well, too. But eventually they're going to get there, I think. And that's really where the adoption is. Right now, like I said, if you're talking about what was the adoption in 2021, open an account and buy some coins. What is going to be the adoption in 22 and 23 moving forward? Stake them, borrow against them, lend against them, learn how to work these liquidity pools, yield farm. That kind of stuff, I think, is really what's coming next.
Hey, if you like this clip, be sure to check out the full interview and more only on realvision.com/crypto. It's 100% free. Sign up now.